right, we're live, Tammy.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. So everyone received the draft report that I had sent out. It basically incorporated more or less the recommendations of this group, but more importantly, the process and how we got to those recommendations. The intent of this report is so that you all review it and you're comfortable with the information. If there's more information that I need to provide, I'm absolutely happy to do that. And this will be forwarded to City Council in preparation for the December 7th meeting. So the intent for tonight's meeting is to talk about the report. If there are things that you think are missing, things that you would like to modify. I have received, I will say, you guys have been so great. I've received probably a handful of comments that are mostly grammar, formatting issues, some preferences about pictures that we think depict the topic that we're trying to represent. All of that, again, I'm glad to change and modify as you see fit, because I do want this to be your document. So I guess for tonight's discussion, Jenny, are you thinking we'll start with just the start of the report and just walk our way through it? Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Just to make sure we're all on the same page about what you've included in there.
Sure.
Do you want me to share that on the screen? What was sent to them? I can do that.
That would probably be great, actually. Okay. But everyone did get a copy, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. And just for clarification, I'll say that this is without modifications. There have been some requests for modifications. I'm presenting this report as I sent it out to you. So just keep in mind things will change, and I will get a modified draft back out to you hopefully within a couple of days. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to get comments, or at least get this on your radar so that in the next couple of days we can get final comments. So if we could just, I think we could just probably go, Jenny, to the purpose statement. So just to give, I mean, literally some background as to this task force was appointed by City Council by resolution. The purpose of the task force is to revisit the idea of an area plan within the historic district, and more importantly, any other recommendations that this group sees fit to fulfill the obligations of an area plan, to give some outside perspective. I think you can scroll down, Jenny. So process, I would love feedback on the process. I tried to capture as much as I could leading up to the Heritage Ohio visit, and explaining how we've tried to provide presentations for the group to get you all in line with what efforts are going on in the historic district, which quite frankly was a learning experience for myself as well. But just what all the city is doing with the historic district, which is quite frankly pretty broad. We have many efforts that are going on, but just to capture the fact that we had to, from January to September, do an educational series, if you will, to get us to the point where we could start talking about what we think we might support or what we might see as a challenge in the historic district.
Hey, Tammy.
Yes.
Just a quick comment. This is really for the group, and just make sure that I'm not the one just reacting to it. But you know, the quote highlighted in the middle of the page there, I'm a little concerned. You know, that quote kind of gives the impression that the real focus really needs to be preservation And even in the paragraph below, we say while appropriately balancing preservation efforts. So, I'm just a little concerned that that could set a tone, being that it's, quoted in large letters and everything else that isn't reflective of the general comments and decisions that the group is coming forward with. Does anybody have a different opinion on that, or?
I do. I must be on a different page of that, because I do feel like preservation is the key within the district to keep what we can of that is historic here.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not what you feel?
Well, like I said, it says below there, appropriately balancing preservation efforts. I think, and we kind of had a lot of that conversation. There are some buildings that don't really contribute a significant amount of value to the district, and it's more the scale and the scope and the preservation of the appropriate historic buildings that is important.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, they just tore down 2 more houses in the historic district because they were houses that needed to be probably torn down. So, and I think we did, if I recall correctly too, we talked more about the scale of the buildings, the appropriate size of not only, height, but also putting in huge, houses and huge additions, which they've really already done in the district. So I don't know if that's, Sally, where you're going with that. If you don't want to see more of that being done in the district and more just preserving exactly what we have and preserving it the way we have it. Is that what you're thinking?
No, I mean, I think there needs to be a balance to accommodate the increase of population and everything. But I think keeping as much as we possibly can is really important at this point, because I feel like we're losing so much of it. There's so little left.
No, I agree.
But what is built, the new things that are built do need to be built within scale and look have the charm and the look of the historic Dublin, but with the modern conveniences in there too. But I think the preservation is really important of what we do still have.
Right, and I think the preservation of the historic structures is what is really important, as opposed to some of the the various cinder block buildings that exist, and some of the building, the L-shaped building, things like that. I just
Right.
want preservation, becomes the absolute and total focal point, where I think we really said is that it has to be appropriately balanced preservation, carefully thought through.
Right.
So if I could make a suggestion, this is a quote from a task force member. So any one of us can offer up the right quote and put the right words in. So maybe somebody could edit this and use the right words, and we could then just accept it as the quote.
Agreed.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I just don't want them to get the wrong idea that we want to preserve everything in the district.
Yeah, freeze everything.
Just like it is.
I mean, it's, it came across loud and clear that we want things to happen in the district. And for me, having that as the first quote out of the gate, as we get into this, it kind of says, it says the task force is basically saying, keep it as it is. Don't touch anything, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
If I can just jump in real quick, this is Andy. To me, it's preserving the charm and identity of historic Dublin. There are contributing and non-contributing properties in the historic district. So clearly, some of the buildings that you're citing, they are not contributing. And if a developer or owner came forward with a plan to ARB, those plans would be vetted through when I read that, I don't look at it as, keeping the good and the bad, keeping the new and the old. It's really keeping identity. And you can't change it once you've taken it down. Properties that, or I guess properties that have been developed, say, since the 70s or 60s, on the table if the plan came forward. So I just wanted to insert that.
No, I think that's kind of where my head was too, Andy. Thank you.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is Kathy. I mean, when I read that quote, it didn't really speak to me as saying freeze everything in stone and keep it.
Yeah, it didn't me either.
I mean, to me, it just spoke to trying to preserve the historic properties we have left, I mean, not being so quick to, approve those demolition orders. So yeah, I didn't see any conflict with preservation and allowing, some new development in the district.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that we have to our benefit is, and I'm not sure to what extent we've talked about it, but the city did a historic and cultural assessment project. I think I would say about 3 years ago, Jenny, it could be off a year. And it does actually identify contributing and non-contributing, not only structures, but amenities to the district. So depending on where everyone is, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but if you think leading towards that as guidance to when or if things are demolished, that could be a more appropriate statement to make.
Do you think if we added a couple more words in there, like preservation of Dublin's historic charm is key within the district, because then that maybe doesn't make it look like we're just want to preserve everything that's there and not do anything else with it.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly, because I think that's the key. The discussion that came out of the overall discussion is the historic charm is what really brings people in, what makes them like the area, and that's what's at greatest risk.
Right.
Development.
Right.
So,
I think that's what I mean about when I read the quote. I was thinking of it in terms of the historic charm. So. Right. Okay.
We can use Sally's quote there, Tammy, if you're comfortable with that.
I'm just the note taker. You guys, this is your conversation to be had.
Right. No, and again, I think, I think we're all in agreement on what we want to try to accomplish. And when I look at these kind of call outs in a report, I'm not one of the people that sits down and reads the detail as I first go through it. I kind of skim it, and those things really get your attention, and they set the mindset that you would later read the report with. And so I'm a little sensitive to miscommunicating what we talked about.
Yeah, I totally understand. So I will, Sally, if you're comfortable, I will use your quote and replace it.
It's fine with me as long as everybody is in agreement with it.
Absolutely.
I don't feel like you have to put my name on that.
It's generic. It's generic.
It's a task force member.
Yes, I don't need people coming at me with pitchforks.
In today's political environment, you think that might happen?
Well, and I agree, though. I think we should make it a little more specific, just because, you got the L-shaped building over here. We don't necessarily want to preserve the L-shaped building, so I think if you open it up, it's a little broader, and I think we can incorporate a couple different things in there by changing that.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for humoring me.
So Jenny, I think we can go on to the next page is just basically our agenda or our meeting schedule. Just to say that, you know, we've been doing this for less than a year, but we've been diligent about our meeting process. If there's any comments.
Yep.
And then our mapping exercise, I just wanted to give some due diligence to your efforts of pinpointing what you think are pros and cons in the historic district and a link to where people could find that information. So just to be clear, this is just a snapshot of the mapping exercise, but that blue link will take you to the location where people can see not only where you've highlighted in the district, but your comments specifically to what you like and what you maybe would like to see changed. If everyone's okay with that. We're coming on to another quote, so I'm a little nervous. Let's see.
I like that. I mean, I think, you know, that's kind of what we said. This kind of an area is not what most small businesses, especially if they're walk-in traffic based kind of retail or service businesses, would look at as prime. So the city, the city does need to provide support to make sure that they have that they can survive, they can do well.
You know, and I think that's going to be even more important in the next probably 6 months, where we start to figure out what the impacts of the pandemic are going to show to businesses. It's tough. And
well, just as a quick anecdotal example, with us being a downtown operation, we own a brewery and restaurant in downtown Columbus. We don't have patio space because our building literally goes to the property lines. And in late September, the city finally decided to allow us to block off an alley next to the building that we could use for an outdoor patio space, which would have been phenomenal, early on. But the city of Dublin seems to be very responsive. I know they did that over in Bridge Park. But I think it's important that the city recognize that businesses in this area might need that kind of quick, supportive response to situations like a pandemic, or they may need additional marketing support, or they may need additional wayfinding support or parking capability support, that sort of thing. I think it's important to city be aware that this area is worth investing a little bit in the businesses.
And I think Dana's been really great about, he's done a couple of different efforts to allow outdoor patio space that may not otherwise be permitted.
Sure.
As well as like banners and, I mean, just anything to allow businesses that are remaining open that they get that recognition. So we can highlight that more if you think it's important. But bottom line, the needs of the small business community are going to keep changing, and we just need to keep changing with it.
The city needs to keep it at the forefront if they want this to be a viable district. Yeah.
Are there other thoughts about this? Yep.
You're going to hate me. I have a comment about the map.
Sure.
I just realized it's the only map in the document. And I realized that you're supposed to go to the website, but because it's the only map and the only map that shows the historic district boundary, I wondered is it possible just to label the historic so that when people look at it, they know what they're looking at?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, that's. And Kim, I would never hate you.
Well, I'm sorry. I was contemplating the map for way too long. You moved on.
It's a judgment-free zone.
Okay.
I like that idea.
Okay. Will do. So let's see.
Concerning the link with that map, mine's coming up as page not found. Is that just me or?
I thought I had tested. So when you copy that link into a search, it doesn't come up with anything?
Yeah, it comes up with a City of Dublin sorry page.
Okay. Let me check it out, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
I have a question about, can I move on from the map or you still want to hang on the map?
yeah, no, I just wanted to mention
I'm done.
that. Go ahead.
Under the next page, under the, the city needs to support small business. What is the mobility programs? Do we go into any detail about that? Because I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, so I was referencing not just JM had spoken to this group about not just the shuttle services that we have for a couple of different populations, but also the bike share programs that we're involved with. So people tend to go towards the aged and the workforce community shuttles, but there's a bigger program in mind, but I can be more specific if that's helpful.
Yeah, maybe maybe at least incorporate the bike, that would probably be good.
Okay. Thank you.
The link works for me, just to let you know.
Yeah, it worked for me too.
I did it in Chrome. I don't know if that makes a difference.
You know what? Actually, that does usually make a difference.
Okay. I'll double check it. What happened here? No worries.
And I can even make a note that it should be searched with Chrome if that's, sometimes it's just less sensitive. We're starting to get into the recommendations, and I will tell you there's a lot of formatting issues that we've had. Essentially, just more information than you probably need, but I created the Word document for the content of the document, and then we put it in an InDesign document, and sometimes that formatting gets a little off. So there's a lot of admin work that I'm going to have to work with our planning assistants to clean up. So just so you know, we'll make sure that everything's consistent. But more importantly, I wanted to make sure that the verbiage and these recommendations are exactly how you want them to be. We'll start with, obviously our first task that we're charged with is creating an updated historic district area plan. And there's 12 components to this task. So I would, if anyone has any time and you want to cut to the chase, this would be the more important part of the document that I'd like you to look at. I'll start with gateways if anyone has any comments.
Tammy, I've read this over a couple times actually, and honestly, I think you hit most of the ideas that we had come up with and put them in here. I just don't see anything we need to add to it unless someone else does.
Thank you, Mary.
Me neither. I thought it was very comprehensive.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it helpful for me to keep going through the recommendations? Do you still want to keep going through them, or am I belaboring this too much?
I think we did go through this a little bit the last time. And,
Okay.
and had added some things at that time. Like I said, I think you did a fantastic job in pretty much putting everything that we had talked about.
Okay. I mean, Jenny, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I mean, my main goal in this meeting is to ask if there are any edits, modifications, changes. If you would be so kind to get those to me within the next day or so. I'd like to hopefully have a finished report by the end of the week and get it back out to you because we'll be preparing council packet next week.
Tammy, the one thing I did, and I mentioned this at the beginning of, I don't think you were on yet, on page, well, I've got it as page 14 if you don't go back to back on the thing. Under diversity of uses, I had asked if we had ever talked about possible residential apartments, residential living space above the retail in town. I don't know. I didn't see that on here. I may have missed it, but is that something we talked about?
I think that's included in the code already, isn't it?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Tammy,
It's changed so
do you know?
much in the last few years. I don't know.
I mean, I look through, I'm a planner, so I always assume residential is included in everything, but that's a good point of clarification if you don't think that's an obvious thing to understand when you read this. I can
Well, it was for a while excluded from this area, but the zoning has changed a couple times since the last time I looked into that. So I don't know if it's in there or not.
It should still permit that you could have the mix of uses. I think, yeah, originally it had where you couldn't have residential on the ground floor, but I think we've opened that up a little bit more just to be more flexible to your point. So, but again, I'm not opposed, obviously, if you all want to add that as something that we should encourage residential uses, for the vitality piece of that too. I think it actually kind of fits in both places. So.
Right. No, I agree.
So the place we put G, diversity of uses, and we talked about use, and I think that was meant to include residential, but it's not specific. And in the second bullet, it says encourage service, commercial, and office uses on the upper levels. We were not specific there either. We could residential in that line.
Yep, easy.
I think the intent of this was to get those off the ground level and get them up, but definitely residential could be in the upper levels also.
No, I think that's an important part of, or an important clarification. Jenny, can it be, it just can't be multifamily? Do we have restrictions on pure multifamily? Like above two whatever, duplexes?
I'd have to look back at the specifics of that. I mean, the different zoning districts permit different things. So the core would allow more intensive commercial type uses, whereas then the south and then the historic residential would allow for a little more residential character. But it does permit the mix of that throughout because we want to be flexible.
Okay.
So Tammy, and for everybody, so I had to the document and made notes and sent them to Tammy. So, and some of it's just things, but there was one statement that caught my attention. It's under parking, and the second bullet we talk about eliminate suburban design requirements, and I kind of stuck on that, like what urban design requirements. So I offered some alternative language to get the word out of there. And I think, what did I say? I said, I added for a more urban character and material is compatible with the historic district, something like that. I think Tammy or others can wordsmith that, perhaps come up with some better words, suburban. That's something that has other connotations. And I wrote or put something else in. I'm not sure that got rid of the word suburban because I didn't want to like take words out that people put in, but I defined what that meant.
I'll look back at what you gave me and then I'll include, unless I can think of other language, I'll include what you gave me and then you can comment on the second draft.
Tammy, I have a kind of a nitpicky one under section E, first bullet there, section E on page 13, the first bullet. Just wanted to make sure because in the parentheses, you say limiting building heights. I would like to add ensuring sufficient building setbacks, et cetera, just to be clear that what we were talking about is making sure that that buffer is maintained and ensuring sufficient setbacks is an important part of that.
Yep.
And to Kim's point earlier, if I may, the emphasized statement, we need to respect our natural corridors and emphasis on the Indian Run probably ought to be ahead of section D and E, if I'm thinking right.
Clay, you're talking about the quote itself, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Sets the stage. Good call. Yeah.
Clay, what page is that? I'm sorry.
The quote is on 15 and
Okay.
the paragraphs are on 12 and 13.
Okay. So if I place that earlier in the document, that would suffice?
Yes, that's what I'm after, is to get it before we start getting into the details of preserving Indian Run, and then afterwards say it's an emphasis. But yeah, like somebody said, it sets the stage for what's about to be said.
Right.
And again, just to open this conversation up, I literally picked a few comments that I thought I heard repeated in different formats throughout our process. But if there's a statement or a phrase that you think more adequately defines what you think the primary focus of this group is, I'm not overly committed to these statements. So I can change anything that you want.
No, I like the statement itself. I personally, it's just better placed, I think, ahead of those two sections.
Okay.
I agree. And Clay, is it Indian Run or is it just Indian Run?
I don't know the answer to that question. I would assume it's just Indian Run.
There's a couple places where it says the Indian Run, and I made a note to take the out.
Yeah, I would take the out of it, if you will.
Okay.
It's a quote, so it's always a little bit. That's what somebody said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just get all excited when I think about maintaining that and possibly adding something like the McDowell property on the south side, and then having the Spring Park in the middle of that. This area differentiates itself from the Bridge Park development so much by the park spaces and things like that. Yeah, and the scale and the cuteness and so on. Yeah, cuteness. It's a thing.
There was a picture that I don't think was incorporated in this document, and it's basically the forefront of a business, and they just have this cute little seating area where people, obviously they want you to come in and visit their business, but there's a little open space, and it's you don't feel compelled. If I were to walk by, I would sit down.
Right.
I might actually see if I can get that picture and put in here, because I think that's an important part of just having little close areas where you can just relax and enjoy your time there.
Maybe you could put it in place of the picture on page 14 because that repeats the cover page.
Yep.
Or change the cover.
Kim's already beat you to the punch. That was one of his requests. So
All right.
You guys are so observant. There's so many things that you're mentioning that I missed.
I mean, Alan, your point was all of your points are well made, but people are going to get drawn to the pictures and the phrases. So I do really want to make sure they're representative of what you want them to be.
Right.
And I suggested a caption under the photo for people necessarily know what they're looking at.
I noticed on page 16, the very last sentence, it's not completed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was going to also just bring that up, and I was looking at a map. My wife, we were driving up 33 the other day, how Friendship Village, she's saying, they should have access to like Bridge Park and stuff like that, but there's no sidewalks or anything to get there. And I know that's probably in the city of Columbus, but I think that and was the neighborhood on the other side of the river. Is that right? I have to go back to the first draft.
Yeah, I'll go back to the Word document. Again, sometimes when you put this stuff in InDesign, it covers things up. It has a place for them, and I will say this right off the bat, our planning assistant has done all the InDesign work because I refuse to use it. So
to put that list of neighborhoods. Okay. And I'm trying to remember, I was trying to be very inclusive, and I did want to capture the other side of the river, but I don't know I'm not sure if there is actually a neighborhood on the other side of the river, south of 161. But
Up Martin Road there is. There's a couple.
Is there what's the name? I couldn't.
Oh, that I don't know the answer to.
Yeah.
Martin Road.
do you know, Jenny? I didn't think there's a house.
Is River Highlands on the other side? Is that what it is?
I'll look back at the Word doc, Kim, and we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, it says River Highlands on Google Maps at least, and Riverside Glen North, but
That's Riverside Glen North. That's what's missing.
I wonder if Dublin could work with the city of Columbus to run a multi-use trail from like Riverside Green down to or up to Bridge Park. You'd have just along like the east side of 33. You have and then like people at Friendship Village, Riverside Green. They'd have an easy way to get up to Bridge Park and historic.
sure.
That's exactly my wife's point, Kathy.
Yeah.
She was saying we could move there, but there's no path to get back to Bridge Park, so we wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I don't want to move there yet. I'm not ready.
How do we get them across the circle, though? The traffic circle?
The circle.
There is
Because
a
that's
pedestrian
almost
crossing there.
I mean, I guess I could go up to the light at where Wendy's is, and I mean that would be the safer way across. But
Or you can get them across right there at Riverside Green and have them on the west side of Riverside rather than the east.
okay,
Right. Yep.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So the other part to this that I just want to throw out there for those of you that know more about this than me is I believe Kiwanis Park is on both sides of the river. And that's why I was thinking that making that connection.
Right.
Because the park extends to both the river.
And there is a walkway along, that the Riverway Park on the east side of the river is a boardwalk behind some of the office buildings down there. So if we could somehow get that linked into that, that would be optimum.
Yeah, and I think the bike trail, that's going to go through the new park over there. I think that is, planned to go at least up to that, Kiwanis Riverway Park. I don't know if it's any plans to go beyond that though.
Big wall in, Kathy, on the underpass now. I don't know how you get it. I guess it'd have to be another boardwalk kind of hung off the wall. I'm not that there's enough land there. Unless you've seen a plan that they're going to make it work.
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to go, to the other side, south of 161, but
That would be
what do I know?
That would be super cool if they had some pedestrian walkway along that little drive with the wall that kind of bypasses the roundabout. Because then people could actually go from one side of the roundabout to the other and still have a view of the river.
Right.
Yeah. I was so mad when they put that wall up. Because you can't see when you're driving.
Tammy, a couple of meetings ago, I had asked that question, I think. Is there any possibility of them ever putting another walking bridge on the other, down south of 161? It doesn't have to be as elaborate as the one we have on the other side, but have we, has the city ever considered doing something like that?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can certainly ask the question because I feel like even with the presentations that we had with engineering and parks, there's a lot that's happening that I don't even know about.
I'm just thinking it would really connect, like they're talking about these, the older folks over there at Friendship Village and those areas down there, connecting, I mean, if we could go through that Kiwanis Park on the other side and connect that, if we had, and like I said, this does not have to be, the $10 million walking bridge.
25 million.
I mean, there's there's a lot cheaper ways of building a bridge, just a small walking bridge across. And I'm just wondering if that's something that, it would just be a great way to connect, the east and, or the north-south sections of the historic district.
Connect to the McDowell property.
That's,
right? Yeah.
Would that be awesome? Or
make a big loop.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's something we even want to put in this report, or if, it's probably something I would assume, don't want to tackle at this point, but.
Well, this is a list of recommendations.
Right.
It doesn't have to all be done at the same time.
Right.
True enough. I don't know. If you want to throw that in, I just think that would be a neat thing. And we could, if there's some way we could incorporate it with the McDowell property, that would even be better.
Well, and that's a very good point. And I apologize that I didn't mention this earlier. One of our next steps in not only finalizing these recommendations, we're meeting with all of the entities that we've had, which is ED, engineering, parks, and we're sharing our recommendations with them to make sure if there's fiscal implications to some of the things that we're recommending, that we then place, I guess, financial commitments to those. So these aren't empty recommendations. We're making sure that we have the resources to implement them. So that could be part of that conversation.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I would love to see that added in. That would be great.
So just to be clear, do you want me to add it to the report, or do you want me to add it into our conversations with our internal staff?
Probably for now, the internal staff conversations, because if it's something that absolutely, can't happen, then there's no reason to bring it to the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tammy, I have sort of a related question to this in terms of like moving people around the area, like especially visitors that come and they park their car and they want to get from one shop to another and one part of historic Dublin to another. There was one event a couple years ago that had this cute little green trolley, and it seemed to fit so nicely in with the charm of historic Dublin. And I've been to other cities where they have some sort of cute shuttle like that, where you can just park your car and you can just get on, you can pull a stroller on. Sorry, my bird is going crazy. But has the city ever thought about that, or is that on the table anywhere?
I mean, we've talked about it in numerous settings, but obviously the mobility project is probably the most appropriate setting. But I mean, again, these are recommendations that you want to raise to city council. So if that's something that you want to have highlighted or at least considered, we can include it in the report.
It's some sort of like charming mode of transportation, like that fits in with historic Dublin.
And accessible. I mean, you want things that will be,
yes,
you know, no one wants to wait 15 minutes to get on anything. So, right. Okay, let me try to come up with a bullet point, and I'll try to highlight it as best I can, and just let me know if it fits your needs.
In the winter, they could have like horse and buggy. I've seen that done in different cities. It'd be kind of cool. Christmas time.
Cool.
Tammy, also on the bottom. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. On the bottom of page 17, it looks like, I'm not sure if you wanted to continue saying something. It says in and accessible. On the last paragraph, that I think maybe there's something missing on there.
Okay.
Where, Mary? Where?
On the bottom of 17, under arts and culture, that last paragraph, it says to the public in and accessible. And I don't know if there's something missing there. Didn't make any sense.
There's more text.
Probably missing the word banner at the end.
You guys have something at the end?
No, but I'm just saying it looks like the word got cut out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And manner would probably be the word. MANNER.
Yeah,
yep.
That would fit.
Okay.
Also on page 19, let's see, where we said in the first paragraph, Tammy, it's got assisting small business owners with any needs they have to maintain their operations.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that was a little bit too broad and maybe scary for them to see that without, like maybe being more specific, like what types of needs. Are we talking about monetary needs? Are we talking about, what kind of needs that the small business owners might need?
Okay. So I can put words to that statement, but honestly, just to make sure we're all on the same page, it's not just fiscal assistance, but it's just basically if small businesses need to navigate even city processes, whether you go back to get a sign or you're not sure where to go to even ask the question, that we provide an element of assistance. So I will highlight all of those.
Yeah, because for me, it almost sounds like it's just for fiscal use, which like you said, there's a lot more they could use than that.
Yep.
Okay.
Hope everybody's safe. All right. Thanks.
Oof. And the needs and gives guidance.
Carol, can you say that again?
Sure. it says aid in the needs and then add and give guidance.
Okay.
I'm lost. Don't laugh at me.
I knew you were. So I'm on page 19. And that doesn't mean we can't go back.
I was there, but then I second guessed myself.
Okay, so let's do this. I have a little bit of work in front of me. So if I were to be able to turn another draft around, see, today's Tuesday. If I were to be able to turn a draft around by the end of the week, I would probably be hard pressed to get comments and changes done by Tuesday of next week. Is that acceptable that you have Monday and Tuesday to review the draft?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, great. That would be, that's doable. And then I guess I would ask the group, how are you feeling about meetings? Do you want to meet again to talk about the second draft, or do you want to think about it?
Tammy, as far as we're concerned, I think if you make a few changes that we've asked, then I'm good with it. If you send it back to us and everything looks good, I don't think we need to meet again to okay it. What does everybody else think?
The only reason we would need to meet again would be if it was still drastically not what we were expecting. And that's really, I don't think it'll be that way, but one of us or some of us could call for a meeting if we felt we needed to discuss it further.
Okay. Okay. Well, then I will be committed to getting a second draft out at the latest, the end of the week. And again, I welcome your comments.
Tam, are you going to review the process going forward at all? Happening, and then the idea is that we're going to take this to City Council in December. So that's what those are the milestones we're trying to meet.
Yeah. So we talked about it just briefly before we started the meeting, but the next steps, Tim and Kathy have been kind enough to go and help us speak to the Architectural Review Board just to get their comments. Quite frankly, many of the things that you've talked about align closely with the things that they're doing. And that's really what we would like them to understand. And then beyond that, we are prepared to move forward with the recommendations to City Council on December 7th. So if any or all of you, Jenny, I don't know how this works for the council meeting, if we can invite everyone or they can probably watch, I would assume.
Yeah, that's available online to watch. And then I do believe council sort of changing their format so people could make comments. Well, they do allow that now to make comments ahead of the meeting and during, as well as during the meeting. So I think we're trying to make it as interactive as possible. If you're all feeling comfortable with Kim and Kathy sort of representing the group, that's probably how I would recommend going forward. But again, that doesn't preclude you all from chiming in and making comments in support of that as well. So I think Andy being here too, that helps, and Jane as well along the way, hearing your conversation to know this really does represent the whole group's conversation is a benefit as well. So.
I'm just kind of thinking, Amy, could maybe present and Kathy? Is that right?
Yeah, as the chair and vice chair.
we could make them presenters. And so they'd be in like a waiting room off the side. And then when it's time, if they wanted to share words and their perspective, they could do that, I think.
Okay. And then Kim had mentioned, and I don't want to miss this opportunity, we're going to encourage the Architectural Review Board to, assuming that we're aligning with their comments, that they lend some support to this effort so we can at least acknowledge the commonalities between the two groups. I'm not exactly sure how formal it has to be, but at least, again, acknowledge that they're supportive. And again, assuming that's the case.
We'll find out tomorrow night, right?
One of your ARB members has already seen the draft. So Amy Cram is on the Historical Society board, so I shared it with her. She'll have a couple comments, I'm sure, as she usually does.
Excellent.
So has the rest of the ARB not seen this document ahead of time? They're just seeing it for the first time at the meeting?
They haven't, and to be fair, I wanted to get through this meeting to make sure that I was representing your comments accurately. But the presentation that we have tomorrow night will have all of the recommendations included.
Okay.
So they'll see what you're seeing.
Okay. I just didn't know if they'd have time to process it all. Like,
yeah, it's certainly not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, but I think if we highlight the idea that, again, there's not a strong divergence between the two groups, I think that's really what we're getting at. I'm not really looking for an editorial review of the document. I'm looking for, we're generally on the same path as two entities that have it in the historic district. I don't know if you felt differently, Jenny, but I think that's our main objective.
And I think we also talked to, maybe to your point, Sally, that if ARB had major concerns or wanted to see it again and discuss it more formally, we could definitely arrange for that too. So.
Well, I really do appreciate everyone's commitment. I mean, again, I couldn't ask for a better group to give feedback. I'm available for whatever you need, and I'm committed to getting you another draft.
Okay.
So Jenny, don't give me any more tasks.
I'll try not to. No, again, thanks to you, Tammy, too, because I don't want it to go unnoticed by your hard work putting this together. So really appreciate your efforts on that. This turned out very, very nicely. So, and to all of you, thanks for your comments and your input and being honest and sharing your concerns and helping us find a solution to how to resolve those. It wouldn't be the same if we all weren't collaborating. So thank you.
No, it's been phenomenal, and thank you for everything you two have done.
Yeah, thanks both of you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Now we just hope to implement some of these things.
Yeah.
And now it's Andy's responsibility.
Well, we don't want your contributions to be in vain. So, what I've heard is congruent with how I feel personally about the historic district. So you have an advocate here, you have an advocate in Jane, and the other council members are all on board as well. So hopefully we can take the hard work you guys have put forth and make some of this stuff a reality. But thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, all.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.